So we'll start the class. Very good day to everybody. This is controlling of logistics business processes, and this is the last topic, the last lecture topic, logistics budget and how you try to address the disruptions in the logistics planning. Okay. So this is especially for you, my dear students and young researchers, and you can reach me at dr.christoananth@gmail.com. Right. So before beginning the session, once again, let me thank God for giving me this opportunity to deliver this useful session to share my knowledge among my fellow national, international participants, students and young researchers. Fine. So in this class, how you try to devise a logistics budget, what are the various key steps in the supply chain budgeting process. Last class we discussed about restructuring process. So it's budgeting process. What are the key steps that is involved in preparing a logistics budget? What are the 8 factors which affect the logistic budget? Then we'll discuss about production planning and control, and finally we are going to summarize the best practices in case of disruptions that happen during the logistics planning. Okay, so at regular intervals I'll be giving you some short videos to discuss the knowledge in your topics, right? So logistics budget, so that is how it has both positive sides as well as the negative sides even. Okay, so we have to cope up with the challenges that can create problems as well as lost profits even. Okay, so if you are not planning the things properly, okay, so logistic cost, it might be a complex spiral that you cannot solve it maybe at the end of the year. Okay, so there are some tips for devising your logistic budget. Watch the calendar. Okay, so when it comes to budgeting, you have to keep intact with the timing. Okay, so a good rule of thumb would be to begin budgeting approximately 10 months into your current year that you are actually planning about, and complete the final iteration no later than 2 to 3 weeks to the next one. So that is how you are going to plan the things in order to focus better. Okay, so start the cycle very soon, and you may not have enough year-to-date data for the accurate projections. Okay, so draw the process out too long, and you try to risk interfering with the year's achievements. What are the goals? What are the objectives that you have to achieve within that particular year? Okay, so you have to watch the calendar. Second thing, vertically align your logistic budget planning process into the entire overall business and have some clear-cut goals, objectives and expectations. Okay, so every budget setting period will always begin with the detailed analysis and assessment, a real-time assessment of how the logistic will match exactly with your organization that you are working with. So in this case, logistics we are all discussing about, it's whether logistics it's a vital part, whether it is a core competent part. So where actually it is going to fit into your company's competitive strategy. So are you really dealing with the new and of course different pressures? For example, COVID is a new pressure that has happened. Okay, so whether you are able to cope up to the supply chain, maybe like sourcing overseas, whether you are able to do that. Okay, so how these factors is going to mesh with the current levels of the logistics funding that is being available, and do you try to make any particular changes in order to restore the particular balance that you maintained before the pressure? Okay, so that you should think out. Okay, then use the power of the pen. Okay, so it takes more than just numbers to create a quality budget. Okay, so before planning, you have to communicate what are the parameters that are involved in writing to everyone who are involved in the thought process. Okay, so include information about the key dates, the schedules that you are going to maintain, the tools that are in place to help, and what are the type of the data you are actually looking into. Okay, so be direct, be more straightforward, okay, about the areas where you will require like additional information, some description that is actually needed for getting that particular data. Okay, so the result will be less miscommunication. Definitely the data integration would be there, collaboration would be much more strengthened with the power of the pen. Okay, and be up to date on your rates. Okay, every time you have to refer the things, not like that, you have to be up to date with the rates. So logistic budget are often off the mark, so that's a reason where you have to maintain a correct rate structure. Okay, so everything maybe from the workers compensation to temporary labor has a price, has a quote. Okay, so and it's your job, you have to know the prices as years changes. Okay, so you have to do that, so be up to date on your rates. Okay, so question everything, you have to ask questions. Okay, from the going rate for your distribution centers, common area maintenance, to the current lease agreements that allow landlords to pass, as and when the price increases, you have to question and you have to be up to date. And don't hesitate to use customs house brokers, freight forwarders, third party logistics, 3PLs, okay, and maybe carriers that is going to give adequate information and education on your industry pricing. Okay, and don't overlook one-time exposures. Okay, maybe like inventory theft, occasional bad client debt, okay, workers compensation claims, that is all part and parcel of the business. Okay, so you cannot predict when such events can happen. Okay, but you can actually evaluate your insurance coverage. Maybe suddenly the building catches fire, then you can impose the insurance that is being involved. Okay, so that you can make sure that these contingencies do not actually turn into financial problems or financial catastrophes. Okay, and set aside adequate funds for any deductibles that you have to pay out before the insurance kicks in, as well as you can maintain reserves, especially for bad debt. Suddenly one party, the third party, claims for that, so you cannot deny the fact, so you should keep some adequate funds. So when in doubt, optimize or maybe benchmark. Okay, so heuristic experience based rules of how the events are likely to occur, everything plays a very important part in the chain budgeting. Okay, so what happens if you don't have enough history upon which you are going to make the decision making process? So that is where you say, like, we have to optimize all the processes. Okay, so systems based optimization is very important to identify, to detect, and of course the cost out the most workable solution. Okay, so everything whatever you are dealing with might be costly and you need experts, manpower to actually run them, but insight and of course analytics accuracy what they provide are nowhere in comparison with the normal workers. Okay, so you can benchmark, as I told you, local, regional, national, international benchmarking against the companies within the industry, or maybe companies that have supply chain process similar to your own event. So that is how you are going to schedule your plan logistics expenditures, and that is in vertical alignment with the industry's needs. Okay, and don't be timid about requesting IT funds. Okay, so don't let high cost logistics interfere with the requesting funds for the big ticket improvements. Maybe like you are trying to maintain the state of the art logistics IT systems, so try to make in good rapport with the systems that are behind the times. So that is how you can be much more counterproductive in each of the processes that you try to maintain in the business. Okay, so maybe you will have the pattern of spending more money manually working around the systems than you will on the funding improvements. Okay, so try to have a very clear cut differentiation between budgeting and goal setting. Okay, so your key idea in the end, the master plan should be improving the efficiency, improving the performance. Last year comparison, our performance this year should be improved over the year. So that is the bottom line. If you are not maintaining that strategy, then what is the case of planning? What is the case of optimization? So that is the thing. Okay, but don't confuse the ambitious productivity goals with the bank budget that you are trying to maintain. Okay, so no matter how much you try to improvise the operations in the year, you risk having serious overruns. That helps to calculate your budget much more easier, and that helps you to achieve the reliable performance. Okay, so optimism is going to pave way for the improvement, but realism is going to pay the bill. Okay, so this is the tagline of today's class. Optimism is going to is going to pay way for the improvement, but reality is going to pay the bills. Okay, and document your budget assumptions. Okay, so a budget is actually a financial plan, but that's not a crystal ball. Okay, so be clear about the assumptions that you are trying to use and what are the parameters, what are the variables that you will use for relevant achievement. So be clear, specify everything from anticipated freight volumes to the service quality that you are aspiring to achieve. Okay, so you have to identify what are the geographical regions where the new work will be actually done. So what the workforce that is being available, whether it will be full-time or maybe temporary or maybe a mixed match approach. Okay, so the documentation is how you try to maintain the agreement. Okay, so that is going to explain what is actually being planned and what you are going to achieve. Okay, so that will have some performance test even for revisiting or maybe you're revising your budget even. Okay. And try to manage your expectations. Your expectations might be huge, but you have to manage them. Okay, so as years go on with the case of budget planning, okay, so your executives may experience sticker shock. Okay, that you try to revise all those supply chain process, higher fuel prices, driver shortages, congestion related challenges. Everything might go hand to hand. Months after months it might change. Okay, so be sure to keep the company leadership be much more informative regarding the trends, okay, with the supply chain costs before you make budget planning and of course budget requesting for that particular next year to come. Right, so these are the key steps in the supply chain budgeting process. One is visibility. Okay, so you try to advocate for the cost visibility as well as operating visibility in order to enhance risk management and of course better customer experience. And value targeting, so quantify the process, prioritize what are the high, medium and low with the case of supply chain budget opportunities. Maybe what are the features that can be the cause for the failures, root cause of the failures. What is actually the root cause of the defect raise? What is going to contribute to the inefficiency problem? So everything you have to go with the value targeting. Then collaboration and shared ownership. So try to have a vertical alignment with the budget owners, especially for logistics operating expenses and of course the inventory that you try to maintain. Accountability and alignment. Okay, so drive reduction targets especially into the supply chain budget in order to ensure that the supply chain improvement efforts are actually supported by the business stakeholders. Okay, so there are some initiatives, implement improvements specifically through the design, planning and of course resource allocation. Then you go for monitoring and control. Okay, so drive continuous improvement, especially of the supply chain budget that you will go to measure the process. Fine. So we'll understand what are the key steps that are involved in the supply chain budgeting process. Okay, so you have to prioritize the the fastest means of success. Okay, so quick win initiatives, maybe like improving rates, prices, changing processes, eliminate the waste or maybe waste reduction in order to create a very fast value. Okay, so collaborate with carriers and of course suppliers who can actually contribute to the quick win process. Okay, so you can identify ways to improve the operational cost performance and you should go for business process re-engineering, what we discussed in the previous classes. Okay, BPR. So that is going to re-engineer the outdated processes. Okay, so you are going to make a small modification in the existing process and make a new one in order to have a quick win situation. Okay, so align closely with the business stakeholders who make important decisions, especially that is going to affect the logistic strategies. Fine. So supply chain costs which are involved in the process, that is going to support margin enhancement for the enterprise. Maybe if either you are working at an organization or maybe a functional level even, so the supply chain cost fund that is going to have different characteristics, maybe like supply chain planning, supply chain customer service, supply chain collaboration, logistic strategy and of course manufacturing operations in the process. Fine. So the supply chain cost, if you take supply chain cost, it might be transportation cost, maybe like gross sales or maybe warehouse and distribution center operating cost. So that would be a function of the gross sales even. Okay. So these are the 8 main factors that is going to affect the logistic budget. First one, base freight rate. Okay, so your base rate is going to make the bulk of the budget. Okay, so maybe if you have a very significant transportation spend, so you have to negotiate the base rate. So you have to do that. Okay, that is actually valid for a period of 1 year, maybe 12 months. So knowing what your rates will be for the entire year, that will determine the cost that you will involve to determine your sales price. So carriers actually will be having a minimum quantity of shipments that will honor the annual price. Maybe if shortage occurs, then penalties may apply that may cater to the shortfall process. Okay. Then you have surcharges. Okay, so whatever modes like intermodal transportation that you will involve, so that apply surcharges for fuel, for currency, and maybe for the peak season it might be the shipment cost would be high even, so that also you should deal into. Okay, so maybe fuel and maybe currency surcharges, maybe it will be fluctuating, it is not the same at all points of the year. Okay, so it's very difficult to predict over the course of the year. Okay, so you have to make a very educated guess, you should not make a blind guess about the surcharges. Okay, so maybe the peak season even. Okay, so that is maybe associated with the Far East trade, and maybe like it might begin in the 4th quarter of the year. Okay, then local or maybe domestic freight rates. So maybe if you try to align with the local and maybe nationwide carriers even, so that can help you fetch the best rates on your volume. Okay, so maybe if you try to maintain one or more in-house trucks or maybe drivers, so the weighting of the cost of the employee wages and of course vehicle maintenance or maybe insurance against the third party delivery company will help you save better. Okay, so maybe outsourcing to the third party logistics can be an extension that can help you with the benefits of the company. Okay. And import and export customs brokerage. Okay, so maybe fixed fees are actually usually offered by the custom brokers in order to make declarations. Okay, based on different factors, maybe like the number of products. Okay, the barcodes that you will try to use in your shipment, the additional reporting requirements, and value of the shipments even. So maybe you will have some clearance cost even, additional cost even, that can summarize for the entire year. So be sure to have additional services to have for your support. Okay. And IT investments. So this is where software plays a vital role. For this we need a supply chain software, so that is going to manage how the shippers will actually go on with purchasing, manufacturing, production, distribution even, to make sure all these programs are useful for the entire time of the year. Okay, so companies can actually choose to allot the expense in the first year, or maybe to cater to the needs of the life expectancy. Okay, so make sure to upgrade the software, update the software. Okay, so that is available at a very less expense. Try to do that. Okay. Then cargo insurance. So it's a minor cost, okay, in comparison to the entire value of the shipments. Okay, but depending on the sales volume, that can actually suddenly it can come rise to a bigger value. So every now and then you have to meet to the cargo insurance cost. Okay, and annual premiums even can be negotiated, allowing you to budget fairly accurately. Okay, so if you are not sure whether insuring your cargo is very important or not, find out if cargo insurance is actually important. Okay, so this is the main line. Okay, then warehousing. So a company, when it chooses to warehouse their inventory in-house, so maybe expenses can also come up. Okay, in warehousing also expenses can turn up. Okay, so the cost of the real estate can be a factor to determine who are the warehouse staff who are involved, what are the MHEs, material handling equipments are involved, what are the insurance cost is there, especially when you are leasing it to the third party logistics. So that can, if you are able to meet that, then you can make significant savings, okay, in the annual budget. Okay, so as I told you many classes, it's very much vital to maintain a WMS, warehouse management system, so that can allow the shipper a very much more frank, much more transparent visibility for the inventory and of course the order management. Okay, and in-house employees. Okay, so apart from the basic base freight rates like employee wages, benefits and training, the cost of retaining the staff, okay, that is very important. Maybe they get a very good offer, then immediately they will go. Okay, so you have to retain them, you have to introduce more perks in order to make them stay in the business, so that is an expensive investment. Okay, so some companies need an in-house traffic department especially to coordinate all the supply chain functions. But of course, as technological advancements go on and on, the choice of outsourcing several functions is at a higher cost even. Okay, so we'll have customer orders, the forecasts, other market information. So we'll have a demand plan. Okay, from that we'll go for the master production plan. That is where the production planning starts. Okay, we'll have the requirements specified for getting the materials, the capacity requirements, what are the capacity flexibility or maybe adaptations, the production order. Then you'll go for procurement analysis and material call-offs, material reservations, scheduling, and finally production control. So these are all like the steps involved in the production planning and control. Right, finally the best practices for addressing the disruptions in the logistics planning. Okay, so crowdsourcing. Okay, so maybe for cost effectiveness you take advantage of the crowdsourcing capabilities, especially to optimize what your staff are capable at working at and what are the vehicles are involved in the process. Okay, so that can help you save money, meet the peak demand, and of course improvise the last mile delivery. Okay, then contactless. So try to adopt a cashless, okay, so contactless payment and maybe delivery options in order to keep your customers happy, safe, healthy even. So that flexibility to adapt to the ongoing trend, okay, so that can help even the customer satisfaction much more better. For example, during the COVID, Amazon was still be able to reach to the customers, no problems of COVID even. So that is the way that you match the trends even. Okay, contingency plan for the unforeseen event. Okay, so have a plan in order to respond to the unforeseen issues. So have an anti-crisis team that is usually prepared at the time of the emergency or maybe crisis. Okay, real-time routing. This is where software plays a vital role. Okay, so have a real-time analytics. Whatever the software that you will try to maintain, that should have a real-time insight about the existing process that you try to maintain and what are the future processes that you inbuild to achieve that. Okay, so that can actually maximize the delivery efficiency, emergency delivery, and of course multiple delivery locations on the same route even. Okay, and AVS, added value service. Okay, so try to consider the implementing cost effective methods and what are the value added services, especially for for ensuring price control and eliminating the waste that are involved. Okay, and online store. This is where everybody aspires to achieve it. Okay, create a dark store that can be used as a distribution center. It need not have to be known to everybody, but it's hidden. Okay, so that can help us facilitate a click to cart service. Okay, where customers can actually pick their orders, okay, made online, that is placed virtually, or maybe through an order fulfillment platform, especially for the online sales. Okay, so even in the social media platforms we get access to all those shopping stores, online stores for your business even. Okay, then technological tools, it. Okay, may it be AI, ML, blockchain, everything comes with the advanced analytics approach, automation, fully automated, warehouse robotics. Okay, that is how it's going to measure the objectives of your company and achieves a competitive advantage over your peers. Okay.